Hi, hello, welcome to my channel. I'm Amber, and today I'm going to be sharing with you a review for Three Holidays and a Wedding by, I have it right here, by Uzma Jalaluddin and Marissa Stopfi. I apologize if I have mispronounced names, but this is like a holiday, well, obviously, by the title, it's a romance centered on the holidays. But what's interesting about this is centered in around 2000 when Ramadan, Hanukkah, and Christmas all seem to happen around the same time. And this is like something that very rarely happens, I guess. And in this one, you're introduced to Mariam Aziz and Anna Gibson, who are both traveling. They're both flying to Toronto on the same flight. Mariam is traveling with her family to her sister's wedding, and Anna is traveling to go to her boyfriend's family for Christmas. And yeah, okay, so the plane has turbulence. They do some confession things, and I only read like that part of the synopsis where like they have like this whole confession thing between each other, and I thought that that meant that this book was going to be about these two's romance. If I had gone further in the synopsis, I would have realized that it isn't. Sadly, it is not. They each have their own romance, and each chapter switches between Miriam and Anna's perspective, or one or two chapters. I don't know. Sadly, I kind of like skimmed most of this because I was so annoyed by this book and with Anna particularly. I think that if this book had just been about Mariam and was written by Uzma Jalaluddin, I would have loved this book a lot more because I've read a previous book by this author, and when I was in Mariam's perspective, I was more interested and connected to Mariam than I was to Anna, who just came off a little bit annoying, and she seemed to blatantly ignore all the warning signs that she knew was there. Like, she knew from the very beginning. But that's not like the main issue with me. For me personally, like, I think that people can know the warning signs and ignore them because they think that they're wrong. Like, things seem so perfect, and that is like a theme around this whole book around when it comes to the relationship is like the whole idea of perfection. But yeah, I just found her in itself just to be slightly annoying. When it comes to Miriam, she is way too much of a people pleaser. She centers her family so much in their needs to the point that she sacrifices her own well-being, and I cannot stand her sister, and even to a point her parents, because her parents basically just caters to the younger sister, and the younger sister just expects Mariam to sacrifice things for her all the time and expect to fix everything, even though she herself is a grown ass adult and is completely independent. She should be able to do these things and deal with certain unexpected situations that are out of their control. Like, there's just no reason for her to act the certain ways that she acts, considering that there's nothing that Mariam could have done to change anything. And the whole book, from what I gathered from what I skimmed, she complains. And from several reviews, people say that there's no real resolution between the two sisters and no real dealing with the fact that Mariam has basically like sacrificed herself for this family, and there's no fucking gratitude. I don't even think the parents fully grasp it. Like, anyways, overall, my main issue with this book, even though I spent a lot of time talking about those are not like a main issue. Those are just like things that we're seeing within the book. And I think that if the book had just been about Miriam, we could have really developed that whole thing out. And I think that the author would have been able to actually fully flesh that out more if she had been able to use that whole pages that they had to do so. It was a choice for these two authors to collaborate. Like, if you like this book, I'm happy that you liked it. I think a main issue with me with this book is that it's set within 6 days, and not even Mariam. Like, I kind of indifferent about Mariam's romance in the sense of like I wish that those two women had gotten together, but the fact that like they got to the men, my main issue is not with Mariam's romance, even though it's still too quick. Like 6 days and they're in a relationship, is just a little wild to me. but especially for Anna, who jumps from one relationship and just goes into another relationship, like, right off the bat. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that it's very clear that it's 6 days, because the authors point that out at every beginning of the book where you are time-wise. And I was expecting that this wasn't going to happen, like, this fast, and it's wild to me, especially when someone's already in a relationship at the beginning of the book, even if it's a horrible relationship. And I think they hit you over the head with that to make it, like, easier for you, try to make it easier for you to be on board with her going to another guy. Okay, they really accentuate, like, the Marissa Steffi, she really, like, hit you over the head with how bad he was to try to make it easier for you to be accepting of how fast this switch between relationships was. But it doesn't work for me because then the guy is still a rebound. It's still a rebound. And I don't see that relationship working out ever. Like, it's just gonna be. I don't like the whole thing. Also, okay, I knew this was a romance. I was purposely reading this for a challenge because I'm on PageBound, and if you do not know what PageBound is, it's like if Goodreads and Reddit came together and gamified. It centers discussions around the books you're reading, and just a lot more discussions around not just specifically the books, but you can do general discussions around the book community, like, all these things. And I really like that. But it's also small business run by two women, and it's anti-AI. So I'm really appreciating it for the most part. Like, it is quite new. I think this is like their second or third year running this site. So yeah, it's still quite new. They're still, like, developing things out, but it's really good, and I would recommend going there. So they do these seasonal read-alongs, and this was on it, and that's the only reason why I read this book. I don't like holiday, Christmassy books very much. I don't go out of my way to read them. And this one really was just sure, sweet, like, to the point that it was, yeah. And it was like Hallmark, but on steroids. Okay, it was a Hallmark movie on page on steroids. It was too much. And what was even more too much was how this town was so progressive that they knew about Ramadan and knew exactly how they were supposed to handle their what they do within Ramadan and the foods and when they don't eat, all these things, like all the things that go in when it comes to Ramadan, they somehow just magically knew. And I find it funny that Miriam, like, calls this out, like, this is just so weird. Yet, and I think, like, the Uzma Jalaluddin was trying to, like, be, like, self-aware about how weird it was, that it was, like, too much almost. But I don't know. It was way too much for me. Bah Humbug, I guess. I did not enjoy this book. I give it 2 stars. So sadly, it was not for me. I think that if you are a Hallmark girly, if you like Hallmark films, this might be for me. But even people who say they like Hallmark Christmas scene movies were saying it was too much. That being said, that's all I have to talk about, and I will see you in the next review.